Hello, everyone. Super excited to start our live sessions again. We stopped for a few months because we were a little busy. Hi, Reshma. I see you're joining. Perfect. Hello, Allison. Hello, Paula. Hi, everyone. Let us know if you can hear me. Let me see. Perfect. Hello. Let us know in the comments if you can hear us well. Hello.
Hi.
Perfect. Okay,
Can you
Rahana
hear
said
me?
we can hear us.
Yes.
Awesome. Amazing. How are you? I'm so excited to meet you. How is everything going?
Great. And thank you so much for, this opportunity. And I'm so excited to, speak to you too. So it's great.
Of course. So where are you dialing from?
New York
Dialing
City.
in.
Yeah.
New York
So New
City,
York
but where in
City.
New York City?
Oh, yeah. So I'm in Midtown East near the United Nations. Which the area is called Turtle Bay because a lot of people don't know, but before the UN was built, there was a bay called Turtle Bay here.
Oh, that's so interesting. I didn't know that. I definitely know that area. I'm
Yeah.
tuning in from LIC, so we're kind of close.
Very close. In fact, my weather keeps on always showing up as LIC because I think, the systems thinks I'm in LIC.
Oh, I think so. Because it's just like, it's not that far away. So
Yeah.
yeah. So I'll wave to you from my window.
Yeah. Are you near the Pepsi sign? I can see the Pepsi sign from my window.
No. I'm a little bit like off in like the residential area, so I'm a little
Yeah.
off to the side. So thank you so much for joining. I'm super excited to have this chat with you. I'll just introduce myself a little bit, and then we'll dial in. We'll dial in. I can't speak English sometimes. That's a fun fact about me. So, my name is Justina. I'm the founder of WERULE, and what we do is we interview female founders from all over the world, and we have a platform for them where we introduce them to mentors, investors, and different business opportunities. And we love connecting, with amazing women like you. So thank you for being here today. My first question is, can you introduce yourself? Like, can you tell us about what you do and who you are?
Sure. My name is Reshma Patel, and I am running for New York City Comptroller. I have had a career in public finance. I have worked for almost 2 decades in public finance. I've also done a few entrepreneurial ventures. I was involved in an e-commerce business in the women's fashion space, as well as a data analytics company that I have helping with nonprofits. And running a campaign, which, I started this January, is very similar to running a startup. And so I can relate to a lot of, the members of WeRule.
Oh, yes. I can imagine. And you're a little bit like me because you said, you're in fashion, you're this, you're nonprofits.
Yeah.
Now, you're running for office. So that's so interesting because I believe that, in your career, like you shouldn't just stick to one thing. You should really experience everything. And then you will know how to relate, to different people. So I think that's really, really, really great. So how did this start, your career in politics? Like how did you decide to move in this direction and why?
Sure. So, I became interested in government and politics. So I'm an immigrant from India, and I came here as a child. And when I was 8, my parents became U.S. citizens. So I helped my mom with her citizenship process. And, you have to learn all these things about U.S. history. And that kind of got me interested in politics. And even when I was younger, my parents would take me with them to vote. And so it was something that I always believed you should be doing, is voting and being engaged and giving back to the community. And I saw it as a way of giving back to the community because as a child, we would travel to India quite often and I would see kind of the things that they were missing that we had in our country, right? And I saw that as something that government could provide. That said, I went off to college and, after I graduated, I got a job offer in public finance, which is working with state and local governments, helping them fund infrastructure projects through bond issues. And I started doing that. So I always had that interest on the kind of public sector side, but no plans of ever running for office. And then in the last 5 years, I got really engaged in local politics and politics in general, and organizing people, getting them out to vote, getting other women elected to office. And what I discovered after the 2016 election was, a lot of people were saying, oh, well, I'm tired, government doesn't do anything for me. And I was wondering why I never felt that way. And I never felt that way because I was always involved and I had voted in every election. And I realized that if you have a problem, you have to pick up your phone and call your elected official, which is something I did, but a lot of people didn't do. And so I spent a lot of time going out and speaking to different groups, and especially young people, and educating them about our process, our government, and getting them out to vote. I got involved on my local community board. I'm the president of the Eleanor Roosevelt Democratic Club. I got involved as board member of a community development corporation called Chaya in Queens, which, you know, we got 10,000 people out to vote last year. So I was very engaged in politics in the last few years. And so people started asking me, oh, well, when are you running for office? And they say for a woman to run, you have to ask her 7 times. And that's what happened with me. That sometime last fall, people were like, oh, you're going to run, are you going to run? And I kept on saying, no, no, no. And then with the new year, I was convinced by a very dear friend who really made it all kind of happen for me and pushed me.
And you know what? And that's amazing. And that says a lot about your character and about who you are, because sometimes I feel like people want to do things because it's in their heads. But if the community is telling you and all the people around you are telling you that you should do it, then, you know, that speaks a lot. Then you probably should do it, you know, and you should go for it. So my question is, you know, you mentioned that what you do today is a little bit of like, you know, like running a startup. Can you tell us a little bit about that? Like, what does it mean to, you know, run a campaign?
So, you know, when you start off a campaign, it's similar to a startup where you have to fundraise. So that's, you know, a big thing. And actually relatively short time frame, because I announced right in February, you know, so, and the election is June 22nd. So a very short time frame. And in about 60 days, I raised $90,000, and so it's a lot of hustling, you know, just picking up the phone, calling people all the time and trying to get them to give you money. Something you don't do for a startup. With this, we've had a lot of fundraisers too that you organize. Mm-hmm. But you're also building a team, and you're getting people to help you with your social media, your digital outreach, especially right now, because, you know, when I started the campaign, you know, most people were still social distancing, especially in New York City, right? The rates had gone up for COVID. So everything was virtual, and organizing a team, and you have a campaign manager, you have someone helping you with your finance. And so very much like a startup, and you're hiring people as well to help you. And very much like a startup, you're expecting people to really believe in your idea, because you don't have money right now to pay them, right? And they're doing it hoping that it leads to something in the future. And so you're really branding yourself and creating an idea.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Like, I really love that you talk about it in that way, because my personal belief is that if you are a good entrepreneur, you will succeed in everything. So I was always an entrepreneur, right? So I was always, you know, like, for example, I went to Parsons and I studied fashion design. I graduated from their fashion program. So people who don't get the entrepreneurship in me, they're kind of like, oh, so you went to fashion school and now you work with startups? And I'm like, no, you don't understand. Like, we had to come up with an idea. We had to create it. We have to sew the clothes. We have to pitch it. We have to defend it. And then we have to do it all over again, which is literally entrepreneurship. You know, you think of something in your head, you create it, you pitch it, you defend it, and, you know, you do it all over again. So I feel like that's really, really cool that, you know, you bring that into your campaign, because I feel like for me, I'm in my late 20s. And for me, when I think about politics, and, you know, I think of it as just like, oh, it's just like this outdated thing. And, you know, to be honest, like, I'm not as involved as I want to be. And like, even in my local community. So you're inspiring me, you know, to take the next step. But it's really cool that you're bringing, you know, that ideology of, you know, entrepreneurship into your campaign. I think that's really, really, really cool. So can you tell us a little bit about what the position is you're running for, which is the comptroller?
Yes. And the most frequently asked question I get is, what is the comptroller? So I'm sure many people don't know. So the comptroller is one of 3 citywide offices here in New York City. And it has many different duties, but one of the biggest ones is managing the pension fund of the retirees of the city. It's the city employees, the school teachers, the policemen, the firemen. When they retire, they get a pension from the city. And we have a $250 billion pension, which is the 4th largest in the country. And the comptroller is the custodian for that. The other thing that a lot of people don't realize is, you know, all of these projects, like whether it's building a school or a road or a bridge, all of that gets funded by debt that the city issues in the form of bonds. And it's like when you buy a house, you take a loan to pay for it. The city is taking a loan from the public markets to pay for all these projects. And the comptroller is the one who manages the city's debt and is involved in the issuance of the bonds that fund our capital program, which builds all these things that we need, or funds improvements. Even something as simple as like buying a desk or a chair is funded through this debt program. We have 55 city agencies, and the comptroller once every 4 years has to audit those city agencies and making sure that they're providing the public value to the city. All contracts go through the comptroller's office, as well as all arbitration with the city. And the comptroller also opines on policy issues and sets prevailing wage laws. And so there's quite a bit of things that the comptroller does for the city.
So
yeah.
You'll be busy.
yeah. And most importantly, we have checks and balances in our city government, like we do at the federal level. And the comptroller is supposed to be the fiscal watchdog, hold the mayor accountable, and really have oversight of all our city government services.
Mm-hmm. That's amazing. And, I researched about it, through like Google searches, but it's interesting to hear, from you, because I didn't even know what that was, when Rahana, my business partner, reached out to me and she said, let's do an interview with you. I was like, oh, I don't even know about that, and I should, because I've been living in New York City for so many years now. So that's interesting. And it's important, to get the message out there for people to even go vote. So when you said it's mostly, about pensions, what is the connection to other communities? So for example, like for female founders, like why we should go out there and vote for who the comptroller is?
So I think the comptroller is actually really important for women and entrepreneurs in general too, because one of the things that it's the power of the purse of the city, right? And the comptroller's office, because it's where all the city contracts go through, right? Like 30% of city contracts are right now mandated to go to women-owned or minority-owned firms. So if you are a woman entrepreneur who wants business with the city, you have to have a good relationship with the comptroller's office and know how to navigate that very complicated process of being certified as a woman-owned firm, as well as how do you get that business, right? So it's important in that way. And the comptroller sets the percentage, right? And so who your comptroller is matters, because if you have a comptroller who doesn't believe in diversity, then you would have no, percentage that has to go to women-owned firms or minority-owned firms. So it's important. And with the pension fund, one of the other things that this current comptroller has started, and is something that I would like to continue, is called board accountability, where the companies that we invest in, we want to make sure that they have women on their boards, as well as people of color, and have diverse representation. And, we're trying to create the world that we believe in New York City. And as women founders, at some point you want to have that experience of being on a corporate board, right? So it is important that the comptroller push for this policy.
Yeah. And that's so interesting that you mentioned that you would have that power to do that, and you want someone who believes in those things. Because, for example, like when I think about women not getting funding, right? Like not getting venture capital, getting like 4% of all venture capital. And I was thinking actually about what I think it was, Mackenzie Bezos, right? Yeah. So she was just like, I'm going to give $1 billion over 10 years to female founders. And I was like, what her real power is to change policy and then change those things, because she has so many connections. And she should do work to force these venture capital firms to have more representation, right? More diversity, on their teams, on their boards, and in the decision-making process. So I feel like, a part of just giving money away and funding things, it's important to, to be represented in the government, right?
Yeah. And that's how you get systematic change. Like when, even with prevailing wages, right? Like making sure that women get equal pay. It is only when, New York City being $250 billion is a lot of money, right? So you have a voice there, right? When you can go to a company and say, hey, if we're investing in you right now, we want to make sure you make these changes, right? So it's much bigger than even an individual fund has that power, right? So I think it is important. People don't realize the role that government can play in these kind of issues.
Exactly. And especially in New York City, which, we're totally not biased, but it's the greatest city in the world. But,
I agree. I completely agree.
So we have to lead, by example. So I have a little surprise question for you. Sure. When you were little, you said you were already interested in politics. Yes. How did you see, the landscape change for women? Do you think, I saw this statistic, that's what made me think of it. I saw the statistic that it will take about 100 years for women to be equal, to have full equality. So we are not going at a pace that we really want to, we need to really ramp things up. But from when you were little to now, do you think we're doing enough? Do you think more women should run for office?
Yeah, so I definitely think more women should run for office. And I think, especially this past year, when we've had such a difficult past year, you saw that women leaders like the Prime Minister of New Zealand, right, have led very differently than the male leaders in the world, right? And I think it's very important to have female leaders because of that. And luckily this election cycle in New York City, you know, we have only had 3 citywide officials ever who are female, but we have quite a few people running for mayor. I'm running for comptroller. We have city council, you know, so many women are running. And right now we only have 13 of our 51 city council members are women. So we're going to have more female leadership, which is very exciting. And my personal story, so as I mentioned, you know, when I was 8 is when I started to get involved. So when I'm 4, I mean, not 4, when I'm in the 4th grade, right? I said to, you know, they ask you, oh, what do you want to be when you grow up? And I said, oh, I want to be president when I grow up. And I remember the people in my class, one boy in particular saying, oh, you can't be president, you're a girl. Right?
Well, ha ha ha.
You know, and then I found out I wasn't actually born in the US, you can't be president anyway. And then I gave up that idea. You know, as you're a kid, you have all these ideas of what you want to do when you grow up, right? But I distinctly remember being told that, right? And it wasn't until very recently, like I think I did believe that we wouldn't have a woman in that role just because I just hadn't seen it, right? And I've seen all the setbacks that women who were running, you know, for Congress or Senate were having. But in the last, I mean, I feel like in the last 8-10 years, we've made so much progress in that area.
And I think that's so amazing. And you know what? America is actually such a great place to be a woman, because like I come from Poland, right?
Yeah.
And so I'm also an immigrant, right? And when I grew up here, I became a citizen in 1st grade.
Yeah.
And you know, my brother was the first one born here. So when he was born, my first thing was like, oh my God, he can become the president one day. Like, he's the first one in the family who can do it. But going back to Poland, for example, like women there are still fighting about, you know, just basic, you know, human rights, or of having, you know, the choice to, you know, what to do, you know, with unwanted pregnancies and stuff like that. And, you know, like when we look at other countries, so many horrible things are happening. So I feel like America like is always leading by example. And I feel like we just have to, you know, it's my responsibility, it's your responsibility to keep moving the needle forward. So I think it's really, really, really cool. So I have like, I love this conversation. So I have like one more surprise question for you.
Sure.
Don't worry. It's not hard.
I'm happy to take as many questions as you have. I'm really enjoying, you know, meeting you and having this conversation after, you know, hearing so much from Rehana about you and, you know,
oh my goodness. Hopefully good things. Thank you, Rehana. Shout out to her. And guys, if you have any questions for us, please feel free to type it in as you join in the comments. I will be happy to take them. So, you know what? Let's say, you know, there's a woman out there and she was really involved in her local politics. Like, what do you think she should do to just take the next step to actually run for office? Like, what advice do you have? Or maybe there's a little girl somewhere, or a teenager, or whoever, you know?
Yeah, well, if it's a teenager, there are several programs now. Ignite National is one of them, which helps young women who are interested in politics prepare to run for office at some point, which I think is wonderful because you start young. Like I said, when I was young, I thought about it, and then I thought, oh, this is not a path for me. And then I waited. I had a full career in finance and did so many different things before I got to this point. But for young women, there is a much bigger path. Even for high school students, they have training. So I would highly recommend somebody do one of these trainings. Emily's List does a training for women to run for office. Vote Run Lead is another organization that trains women to run for office. So I highly recommend that because one, you get the training, although when you run, none of that training, you know, is still like, you know,
it's
trial
kind of
by
like
fire.
business school. Like they can teach you all the stuff, but the real world is the real world. Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's trial by fire, but it you know, gets you thinking in that way, and it also introduces you to all these other women who are trying to do the same thing, and you have this sisterhood and camaraderie and support. Which is really wonderful. So I think that's one. The other thing is I would say really organize your contacts well, because those are the people you get a call to fundraise. And, you know, I mean, I'm sure like me, you probably these days, I'm only texting people, and often you just know people on Instagram or Facebook or some other social media thing. And then I was like, wait, I have to like get their phone numbers and emails and organize it, right? And that took a considerable amount of time. And so be organized from the beginning. I think that's key. And, you know, think about who are the people who really are going to push you and keep you, because it's a really tough process. And, you know, people who will be there. Like I had so many wonderful friends. I haven't had time to, you know, I said, oh my God, I don't even have time to eat or sleep, you know, and I've had so many, you know,
I can relate.
Yeah. You know, and I've had a friend who, you know, all the way from Brooklyn had her boyfriend drive and drop me off food, you know, twice, you know, and you know, other friends who are like, okay, let me, you know, bring over something and do things like that. And so you really want to have your close people who will be there to support you. And something called a kitchen cabinet. These are people who, and you know, whenever you may be thinking I'm going to run in 10 years, the people who you're going to go back to and be like, okay, who's going to help me with this whole process and ideas and really build that. And again, I wasn't thinking that, but as soon as I started thinking about this, people who I used to work with, even people I went to college with, like people reach out to me like, okay, how can I help you? Because I have an expertise in this area. And I think if I was starting off from the beginning doing that, I would have thought about these people and kept constant conversation going until I got to the point where I was running.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I feel like that's very important to, like you just mentioned, to have like what I call the long view. Yes. Even if you think it's going to be, in 10 years, like 10 years creeps up on you. It's not, as far away as you think. So even if you're thinking about to do it in 10 years and 20 years, maybe if you're young, just start doing the work right now and take the baby steps, right? Because it really adds up, like in 10 years, you're going to look back and say, wow, I already did all this work and really prepared myself for this. So that's really, really, really cool. So just to close out, we have some fun questions for you. Rahana always likes to do these rapid questions. So the first one is, what is the best thing that happened to you this month?
Oh, it's so many wonderful things have happened to me, during this process. But I think the most amazing things have happened is just this tremendous support that I've gotten from people who, I perhaps don't even know, and they reach out to me and be like, oh, I heard about you, I saw you, I read about you, and I want to work on your campaign as a volunteer, or I want to donate to you. And that's been super touching and, really amazing. And another thing, though, so to get on the ballot, you have to get signatures. And there's a 3-week period in March where I was out and about getting signatures. And so I went to a lot of different parts of the city. And, as we mentioned, I love New York so much. And it has just been amazing how diverse the city is and going to so many different places. Like I had gone out to East Flatbush for an event, and they were all these amazing, it was a women's event and it was outdoors in a park. And it was amazing because there was a group of women from Haiti. There's a group of women who were Sephardic Jewish community members. There was a group of women who were from Pakistan who were there, right? There was a group of Guyanese women, and all of us, had just come together for a rally, and it just showed the diversity of New York City, and it was incredible. And I felt like, especially because of COVID, I haven't been going out much, but on that one train ride, I felt like I had traveled around the world because I met people from different cultures and talked about their countries, and it was just amazing.
I love that about New York. For example, so I come from Poland, right? And Poland is literally 99.99% Polish, and I moved to Chicago for high school. And in Chicago, I had a lot of Polish friends. Believe it or not, in New York, I've been here since 2010. I have one Polish person that I know. Literally, everyone else is from all these other countries, and I love learning about new cultures and new food and traditions and all that. I think if you are if you're passionate, about learning those things, I feel like New York is the place to be, because you can just turn the corner in your new neighborhood and, you can experience all these restaurants and all these different cultures. So that's really, really cool. So the next question is, when are you the most inspired?
When am I the most inspired? I am most inspired when I hear stories, and especially in New York City, right, about there are these tremendous immigrant women, right, who have come to this country with, not the best English language skills, not the most education, who come from cultures where women don't have a lot of opportunity, right? But they will start something like a threading salon in New York City, right? Or they're working there, or they're working in a nail salon, stuff like that. But I'm so inspired by their stories because they have struggled so much, and they're so smart and have so many ideas. Right. And I really, I believe, and it's something, since you've already created a community of women entrepreneurs, I think the next step for us is to reach out to these women that I meet every day in New York City who have not had the opportunities that we've had, and really see how we can create a place where they can start their own businesses and grow, because a lot of them have these great ideas. Like, just yesterday I spoke to a woman who runs a threading salon, and she makes all these scrubs and creams by herself. Just using a salon when she does massages on people. And I was looking at this, and it's all based on Ayurveda. And I messaged her after I got home last night. I'm like, I'm going to connect you to people because you need to put this online and start a business, right? And she herself doesn't have those resources to think about that, right?
I love it. And one of my favorite quotes is, if you are free, free someone else. So we,
Yes.
Rahan and I really live by that. You know, we love,
Yes.
love connecting people
Yeah.
to opportunities. So next question is, what is your favorite dessert?
My favorite dessert, I would say the banana pudding from Magnolia.
Magnolia, yes.
Yes.
Yes. On the way to the gym, I go to Equinox. Like I
Yeah.
go past by Bloomingdale's, and I'm always so tempted to get it. Yes. I
Yes.
approve this message.
Yeah.
What is the best vacation you've taken?
Oh, that's, you know, I've traveled extensively to so many places in the world, and it's hard to choose. I mean, I would have to say, you know, one of the most beautiful places I've been to is South Africa, and I love Cape Town, and just the natural beauty of that country is just incredible. And it's so much history and culture as well, because I tend to, because of the interest in history and government, I tend to like to also, you know, have both things there, the natural beauty, but as well as kind of to see what man has created in a place.
Yes, I've only seen photos, but it sounds like
Yeah.
it's a great place. So it's on my bucket list. So
Yeah.
hopefully soon. And Rahana likes to travel, so maybe we'll go. So just to close out, thank you so much. Do you have any other like last words of wisdom or anything that you'd like to share with anyone who's tuning into the interview?
Sure. Well, you know, you had mentioned that you'd like to learn more about politics and be more involved. And I think that for our democracy to work, everybody needs to participate. And so I encourage everyone to go out to vote. And June 22nd is the primary in New York City. And really, you know, people tend to focus often when they vote on national elections, focus on your local elections. And I also think it's more than just voting, because we all have to be citizen advocates and really advocate for the things we want, for our government to listen and keep our elected officials accountable. And so I hope you and everyone else gets more engaged and does that.
Okay, thank you so much. This was really, really great. Hopefully we can meet in person soon.
Yes.
When things come, when we all get our vaccines. And thank you so much. And this interview, if you missed it right now, or if you tuned in a little later, yes, we'll share that information on Instagram. But if you missed the interview, just go rewatch it. We'll post it in a second. So thank you so much, and have a great day, and best of luck with everything.
Thank you. Yeah, and my website is reshma2021.com. And so if anyone wants to get involved, anybody wants to support and donate, you know, you're welcome to go there and do that.
Perfect. And we'll also add that in the description for the video. Once we post it in a second. Alrighty, thank you so much. Have a great day.
All right,
thank you so much for tuning in.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Thank you. Bye.